Hi there, and welcome back. Now this is probably the most. I know there's a lot of important subjects, but probably this is the most important subject we can explore and think about because one of the statements I made in the previous thing about the meaning of life, where I put off a couple of things. At the very end, I said that the noblest cause was to protect the innocent. And I fundamentally believe that that is the best thing that we can potentially do in our lives. And here is the mythology of it. So, to be the protector of the innocent, you have to know the enemy and where the enemy lies. Now, this is where we're talking about evil. Now, evil used to be a construct of, or still is to this day, a construct of this entity, namely the devil, who is down in the depths of hell, underground, where he is burning everybody in a continuous hellfire pit of torture, which is sounds pretty bloody horrendous anyway. And the devil is very disguised in his ways, and he will try to talk to you in very gentle manners. And he plays a trick to show you that he what's the word? I'm trying to get into something else. I'm sorry about this. He's trying to one of the little quotes is like the greatest trick the devil has ever pulled was to show mankind that he didn't exist. It's something on those lines anyway, but it's this little trickery for your soul and stuff like that, which is a good little step in controlling evil. There's a good little mythology going on there, but evil is a little bit more subtle than that. It would be easy if there was this little entity that we could highlight and fight and just dig under the ground and blow him up. But it's unfortunately not as simple as that, and it's a lot more ingrained in us than what we generally like to see. So the problem about evil is that I'll just come back to one of the famous quotes that I mentioned beforehand, is that nobody knowingly does evil. And if they do evil, they do not know that eventually it will come to hurt them eventually in the future. Now, I stand by the claim that that is a true statement. And it is very interesting how in life we will go through the stages and let me just scrap that idea with that tangent. So there's I would say that there's two parts to evil. There is the first, more visible version of evil, which is like me going down to the fish and chip shop and finding out there's no vinegar, and then me swinging around a load of chairs in my rage fits. And then there is the very quiet, gentle statistical, dangerous evil, where through very quiet and silent means, evil acts are perpetrated. So there's a lot of wording about how the final solution for Hitler, where he there's choices of how it was made, of how the Nazis would dispose of the Jewish population. So that is, and it basically, maybe some historians can sort of correct me on this, but I don't think he necessarily signed it directly to say, right, just send them into this butchering camps and get rid of them, stuff like that. It's more like something must be done about them, and then what's the put it down to you, and then it just goes down to the level, and then somebody goes, I've got the idea of doing this and stuff like that, and there isn't any reasoned approach to things, and a very light thing of power can create a whole world of pain. Correct me if I'm wrong on that bit, but I think there is that little bit of subtlety that happened there. Also, in the fact that I think a lot of times where politicians or nation leaders, they look at the statistical data of the deaths which have been occurring, and there's another famous quote there where somebody says, just like one person is a tragedy, yet hundreds of thousands is just statistics. And yep, there is truth. You cannot necessarily, the mind doesn't have the power to see like that much death and that much grief, and that you'd be lucky if you know like 100 like very close people to you. It's almost unfathomable how that number can sort of be comprehended. So that probably is the most dangerous type of evil that is out there, because of its total nature and its gentle, the gentle means of it occurring. So we have to, so there are just the certain types of evil. So we've highlighted those two areas. Next up is ourselves. So I'm sure at certain points in time we have done something that we later regretted, and more than likely it has hurt somebody else in the process. More so than ever before, I'm sure that this is probably even higher in the degree, is that you have done something which has pleased yourself in the moment, and has probably in the future, but very gently in the future, has harmed you. So the sweetest little one is to eat that cake and then you feel a little bit fatter, and you've had a few extra meals recently, you've enjoyed nice fast foods, and then all of a sudden you feel a little bit heavier, you're walking around, all those things, and it gives you an explanation of it's come to harm you. Now, eating an extra cake isn't really like the most immoral thing in the world. You haven't really harmed anybody, but it's an interesting point which I come across in terms of instant gratification. Now, being nice and being nice to people isn't really the simplest thing to do. In fact, being angered and being short-tempered with people is the easiest thing to do. And I believe that is a construct of our mind to, for the frontal lobe, which intercepts our sort of what we want to say in that moment and what we want to do in that moment, intercepts our thoughts and then reprocesses them and holds us back from doing these harmful acts. So when you meet a very pleasant person, hopefully they don't have it all in resentment and anger that they store up and then they rage back against you, but you find that somebody is very kind to you, empathetic to you, is very concerned about your day and your life. That has been a product of their own personal training and a product of the environment that they've lived in. And it is a beautiful thing to behold, to see somebody that is who is just as wonderful as that. Now, when you come across somebody who is very impatient with you and loses their temper and is intolerable to some of your actions and decides not to question what you have done first, but jump to the assumption that your act is wrong or incorrect or malevolent or evil, then that person has instantly gratified themselves and not being good in assessing a situation and using calm as a power. Not as a power. I'm trying to sound like a bloody superhero, but like as calm as a mechanism and thought and patience to get to the bottom of what has occurred. Now, my own personal honesty, I will say that I am trying very hard to get this out of me. I have definitely, more so in the past than today, been impatient with people and have been irrational with people and assumed that they have done the worst to me. And as I think about the arguments that have happened afterwards, and I think about their position, I realise that it's not quite as black and white as what I originally thought it to be. And just checking that I'm recording. So I reflect back on what has occurred, and then I realise, this person isn't really just trying to destroy my life. It's really just a case that they're trying to put forward their point, and they've probably been irritated by me in this way. I guess that could have changed in some way. I guess they've been intolerable by me. I think once I look at it in greater detail, I don't think there is really one victor over the other. I think there's a lot of mediation and compromise which needs to occur from this argument. And certain mythology which we can approach this, where we can both come out of this better and happier people and more fulfilled. And now that we've put something like that behind us, that we can grow further as people in a relationship. So it's definitely a very hard thing to control. Now, I'm talking more so about anger, which is very apparent, a very obvious emotion. It's obviously a very dangerous emotion as well. Now, there's other emotions. There's other things where you can intellectualize things, and then think that you're intellectualizing of an object. Like, I believe that. It just goes to show that I've got I live in the master race, so therefore I'm superior to everybody else. So why don't we just get rid of them? That's a really good cause. I'm not really using any emotion. I'm not being angry or anything like that. So that must be a very good methodology of approaching things, which to me, is very angry. Angry. Is very. What's the word that has occurred there? They haven't thought about all the moral ideals. They haven't thought of the golden rule, which is to do to be as good and kind as to people as you possibly can, and expect that in return. They haven't moralized things. They just haven't really clearly thought about things, and it is a very dangerous thing because it's disguised in the charade of non-anger. So you sound like a very nice passive person with a nice gentle tone of voice, yet you can speak of extreme evils at the same time. I've just turned the subject and I wanted to keep back to something else. The rage with myself. So I just want to keep on that subject of anger because it is a very interesting thing. So, yes. Now here we come to the other point. So, another thing to consider with anger, and with a lot of things which occur, is that when you have power, and power is very deceptive in its ways. Power can be attributed to good looks. Power can be attributed to wealth. Power can be attributed to intelligence as well. When you have this power, then and you can obviously have political power and the might of the state and arms and force and things like that. When you have power, you need to be responsible with that. And the problem, and one of the biggest problems in this world, is people do not know how and cannot control power, because they cannot even control power in their own lives, yet they have the greatest abilities of power. So a beautiful woman will have extreme power over men, and potentially women as well. And also probably from women, though, she'll get a lot of nastiness in return. Who knows? But you've got to, with that power that they lived in, they have the ability to do certain things. Maybe they're in school and they dislike somebody, and they say to a jock in the school, "I don't like this person. Can you do something for me?" Boom! That the mastery of power has occurred. And there hasn't really been too much other than just like, oh, I didn't really like that person too much. And the power has been exercised, and an evil act has occurred. It's a very dangerous thing to have instant power in your lives. So to be from a very wealthy family from the day one is a big trick to master, because I mentioned this in the Donald Trump podcast, that I had a podcast on the subject of Donald Trump, is that where you're born into a world of power, you've got a lot of yes men around you going, yeah, that's a good idea, yeah. You'll be missing the people that will be like, nah, I don't think that's a good idea. I think this is the problem with that, and what? And then, like, if you was to do that, somebody would say, "What are you questioning my authority? And get out of my office. I don't want you working for me anymore." You're going to have that certain element of power when you have extreme wealth. You're going to have that certain power if you're an extremely attractive guy as well over women. Women will flock to you. You can be abusive in your relationship to the woman. You can expect a high amount of things to be done for yourself, and you can be irrationally angered by the shortest of things, and you can say, "This is intolerable to me. You should be more respectful for me, and I can go out tomorrow and find any girl I wish. So don't you ever try to pull that trick on me again. So there's the power of beauty, the power of wealth, the power of power, the power of the state, the weaponries. So again, if you've got all the guns, then and you are the person who administers justice to the world, then you're in a very tricky moral position where you need to know fundamentally what is the correct distribution of this justice that needs to be provided for each person. Very highly complicated matter. Hence why we have big law courts and lawyers and a massive extraction of wealth from the government purse. So there's that element. I think I've pointed to most of the power attributes that we have in the world. If there's any further ones, please let me know. So let's go back to another time in, say, before the war, maybe in 1936 or something, where we're all standing outside and we're in Germany, and say that we're all white Germanic descendant people, and we're all excited by a leader who's on the TV, and then they propose. This leader proposes that there's certain rules that should be put in place. You've got very good close friends who are all Jewish people, and they are good friends of yours and your family, and they are good to you. They give you money to do certain, like to help them out in the house, and they teach you certain bits of knowledge. There's just a beautiful relationship which has occurred between them. And then all of a sudden, not even the government, but just people start to question that you have that relationship with those people. And it plays on your mind, and then you think to yourself, on a community level, do I choose to keep this relationship, or do I become one of the outcasts who is getting pushed into the same cell as the Jewish people, and or class as the Jewish people? And then you notice that some of your good friends has chosen to sort of question what you're doing, saying you're getting a little bit too extreme there. Why you're hanging around with these kind of people? What is wrong with you? And you decide that very gently, without even mentioning anything, not to go round your friend's house the next day. And you decide not to go down the same street to meet the parents of your friends that day. And time goes on, and you have gently moved yourself away from those people. Now, this gets me into one of the most important quotes. The only thing for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. But I think also there are so that's where has been choices where there's been like things where they gently move off, but that is very subtle in the way that they've just sort of removed themselves from that people, and it is a form of evil, but it's a really disguised evil, because it's just because you're thinking about your own needs and your own survival to a certain extent, and your own community status. Status is a very important power as well, where you're you're standing in the good of the community, where you're where people ride you on. Are you like a sporting hero? Are you a military hero? Those kind of things, which put you into a higher status point. So yeah, so you've chosen that. Now, The next time you see your Jewish friends outside and they've been lined up and they're doing this hard manual labour, and you see this kid that's younger than you, that's not necessarily anything more important than you, who you could definitely tell him, and you wouldn't have any issues with telling him that he was being a little bit harsh on them, and he should be a little bit more moderate in his behaviour. You choose not to do that because it is uncomfortable for you to say anything in that moment. So we get to that point where the greatest evil is the sound of silence. And that quiet moment where an evil act has been attributed and nothing is done. Now, I must admit, when these sort of things happen, it's very hard to sometimes process and understand that it's happened. Like in the instant of the moment, it's always the thing that's going to sort of haunt your dreams and nightmares pretty much straight after. But in the moment, there is a cloudness of judgment, and maybe that cloudness of judgment is the fear of reprisals and the fear of and your own fears, but that fear is again the thing about instant gratification and long-term need. So if you want to gratify yourself and walk away from a problem so that you're avoiding an issue, then that helps you out incredibly. But if you do the hard thing and choose to be brave and speak up, that is really tough. That is incredibly tough. You've got one option which requires little energy, and then the other option which requires immense energy, immense fear, overcoming all your strengths to start to speak up and question things. And it's not like you can't just do something very subtle in the moment, just to sort of calm and quell things, and then build up on that muscle to start to overcome that person and those people. There are subtleties and manners which can be applied in your own sort of realms of what is possible. So in the art of bravery, you have to choose that you can try and be as brave as possible, but not to be so brave that you end up being killed, because your bravery has been then wasted, and that bravery could be used for another day. So again, it does sound like a game that we're playing with evil, but choosing to play our cards right and at the right moment. And remember that there's that can also be the very trap that you fall into with evil, that you could say, well, I'm going to be a little bit more moderate about this. I won't choose to do this at this moment. So you are walking on a little bit of a tightrope there when it comes to those things. I think one of the best things I ever heard is that we once we have acted bravery, we don't look back on ourselves and regret it. And I think that's a very good point to make, that in the moment, if you act in that brave sense, as much as you're overcoming fear and anguish and all the problems that can occur with that, I think afterwards there is a certain element of I don't know, is it pride in your acts? I'm not sure whether that's... Whoa. This bridge is bouncing up and down a bit. My gosh. I think a bridge should be bouncing up and down that much when cars go across it. Anyway. Yeah. So, very interesting point in that sense. We have a massive amount of capacity to do good in this world, and it is a muscle that we have to gently warm up and start to speak of when we see these acts which are occurring in front of us. And yet we have to be clever in our ways of approaching these things. Now, here we come to another point. I cannot drive with a manual gearbox, it shows. We have a problem with acting overtly brave and especially in the moment. And that is, if I see something like an injustice occurring in front of me, and say I see a big man bullying a younger sort of kid-like person, and it's an act of bullying, I could stand up in the street and say, "Oi, you're doing something wrong. Let him go." And that would be justified. I don't think I would probably... There's nothing wrong in me doing that. However, once an occurrence of another person says, "Yeah, you're right, leave him alone," and then there is the creation of the mob, then, as I probably have started it, I am in control of immense power at that point, because I have the power of the mob. And if I choose to decide, and obviously we're in a very dangerous means because I'm not fully in control of this mob can start to control itself in different ways. So you've got a number of different people that could just jump on that person at any moment. Because I have highlighted the immoral act, we have got a number of people that could just all of a sudden go, "Right, that's it," punch him around the face, instant justice at that point. And then another person decides to do it, and it's because somebody's seen a small man punch a big man in the face, and the big man's looking at he's outnumbered and starting to crap his pants. Other people are thinking, "Right, here we go. I'm going to have a go at this as well." So there is the instant creation of the mob, the lynch mob, and we have a problem with that. So one thing to be mindful of, especially when you are seeking out social justice, is to know the correct degree of which to speak of problems, and to do so in a calm manner, and to not let the rabble go insane and basically rip somebody apart for, yeah, I guess they did an immoral act, but it doesn't justify their murder. They could be just mugging somebody, and maybe they mugged somebody for the causes of giving some food for their family. You don't quite know or understand what is happening in that moment, but you can spot and highlight an immoral act and try to prevent that from happening in that moment. So you have the mob, and the mob can get tremendously out of control, and then the mob can become evil in itself. So we again have power, and especially if you're empowering the weak, the suppressed, the people that have never had and played with power before, give them that possession of power, then you are giving somebody's like a kid like a knife or something. It's a very dangerous sort of circumstance to be under, and no. So always look to this thing. I know there's a big phenomenon in media where where people will look at the justice which is occurring and the injustice that occurs, and then there's lots of trolls which start to jump upon this act, and then they find out that they are not the they're not the minority, but they are the majority, then that passion gets out of control. I know it's on a virtual level, so it's not necessarily like a physical harm or anything like that, but that power can get out of control, and that justice and the overreaction can occur, so that it can boil out into immense problems. So there is this subtlety with power and this power play and how we use it. And there is the subtlety of our own instant gratification and in the moments, doing things that please us in the moment, and then taking calm and thinking about things. Now, I bring you to another quote. I'm not sure if I've just mentioned this already before, but let me just say it again because it's a great quote. This is from Aristotle, the philosopher, the greatest philosopher that's ever existed, in my opinion. And it's about anger. I wish I could. I'd never get a manual car for sitting in traffic. Anger. How does this? I might have to butcherize this quote, so I do apologize. It starts with something like anger is easy. It's something like, anger is easy, yet to be angry, anyone can be angry. It's something like that. Anybody could be angry. But to be angry at the right person to the right degree, and then it just goes through the flow, and it just breaks it down of like why this anger has happened, where it's coming from, and assuming and approaching the correct person with the correct degree and level of anger. It is stating that is not easy. It's the hardest thing to apply. So I've just totally butchered that quote. I'm sorry, but hopefully you understand what I'm mentioning here. So when there is a fly off the handles and there is this anger rage and all of those things, you must sort of go to the perspective that I need to, and this is why it's always so dangerous when there is a 9/11 situation where a government says, right, let's call to arms, let's react, and let's seek justice for what has happened instantly. However, if a lot more wisdom was applied at that point in time, we would be calling for calm at that point and thought. I know a lot of angry people in America would be like saying, "What the fuck are you doing? Like, we need to kill these people and all those kind of stuff." But to seek out what had happened and to find out what were the causes and the purposes behind that, calm should have been sort of instructed at the very instant of what had happened, and then we can at that point deduce what has occurred, what is the causation of it, and again, there could be this massive raft of all of these different circumstances which have occurred, and then we can extrapolate what potentially could be the solutions to certain problems. Whenever you get sort of like this is the occurrence of this problem, you can refer back to, so what did cause that, and what caused that, and what caused that, and then get this humongous big scale of what has been happening throughout history, and just collates a gigantic understanding of knowledge and purpose behind what this evil act has occurred, and then seeking out what is the correct way to approach this evil act. And rather, one of the best things is to, rather than to create more of this problem in the future, how is it best to prevent this occurrence of evil appearing in the future? So, yeah, maybe the government would have thought to itself that having um, big bombing sessions in the Middle East and taking over governments, and with the fight of communism and a lot of manipulation and a lot of debt and a lot of weaponry and arms sales and training and number of factors which lead a lot of the problems is that a lot of the problems that have occurred have been a historical issue of the power that America's had over the years, and it always leads back to the money and the power. Unfortunately, it does. If life was so simple that it would be just some kind of fanatical man who was just beset in his ways, then life would be so easy. And I guess you have with the knob when you with the mob, you have lowered sense of understanding, so you cannot follow a narrative which covers just a multi-topic of different areas from all over the places, and this big collation of a report that is nothing that the media system can provide to you and make you understand and take in and hold any sort of thought either way on the matter. Remember, when you're a big crowd in the stadium, there's the only ability that you have is to chant songs. So that's all. That's about as good as it can get, and that takes some time. You got to take some. You got to, when you start singing a new chant in the football stadium, you need a few people to take it on, and then it all comes over, and then you've got the chant going along. But there's no way that you're going to be able to discuss quantum physics or anything like that on a massive mob of like in that sort of degree with everybody else on a mob mentality. Nobody's going to comprehend it. Nobody's going to understand it. You're as only as strong as the weakest link. So it is very it's not a simple answer to understanding evil, and it always just takes us back to us, unfortunately. We always want to see that there's this big Darth Vader character in the sky which is oppressing us and is malevolent, and he is just pure evil pure evil, just injected with more evil, and he's never been anything but evil. Yet that doesn't really exist. It's sometimes you have people that honestly and wholly believe that they are doing absolute good, and it can be a dangerous thing as well. When somebody who approaches things and just thinks, okay, I am doing pure good, I am let's speak of Democrats. I am I'm a Democrat. All I want to do is ensure that the poor are fed. I want to ensure that they can seek out good medical treatment. I want to ensure that they've got the highest wages possible. It sounds like they are the most beautiful people on this earth, and all they want to do is good to this world, which is lovely. Is everything that you can say. You could say that your trajectory and everything like that, and your heart is definitely in the right place. You could not question anything of that. Yet, if there hasn't been the full picture taken into account, and you don't take those steps forward. So, what is the causation of this problem, rather than a reaction to the problem? Then you get yourself into this you've only just got this very singular sort of topic of discussion, and it's obvious what everyone's going to lean to. Everyone's going to say, "Well, the Democrats bloody right. Of course they've got it right. There's no way that you could ever foresee it any other way." Yeah. The highlight hasn't happened in the sense that, well, how do we obtain this money in the first place to provide to the poor, and how do we make sure that we inflict that businesses run the high pay people with high wages? And then even if we pay people with high wages, what would be the ramifications of that? Would it mean that less businesses would be able to employ people? And would those businesses businesses wouldn't be able to afford these people, so they choose not to employ these people? They might try to push up their productivity when they wouldn't have before. There's this multi areas of thought which unfortunately doesn't happen, especially on a media level and especially on a mob level. So when that doesn't occur, then we have issues. So I just tackled high wages, giving to the poor. So what is the causations of the poor? Is it the war on drugs? Is it the immoral act which we are taking away fathers from the youth? Is it not teaching that that to live in a stable family home with a father and mother, which basically eliminates poverty straight away as soon as you got a mother and father in a family home, and you haven't got like 15 kids. But if as long as you've got those two things, you've eliminated poverty. So we've got to work out, why are those things happening where we have people that appear to have children without the thought of concern about providing for those children, and then you think to yourself, well, there is a benefit mechanism in place. So is the good of providing those people with benefits actually harming them in itself? And I'll let you play with that thought, because it's a very important thing. It's not quite as black and white as that, and to get people out of the sense of instant gratification and to climb out of those problems into a world of hard work and long-term goals and building for a better future, and to not be impatient in the moment, and to just all of those things which surrounds long-term investment into your future is where we seem to have issues with, and we have to point out to those problems. Now, again, we return to what we can do about that. And it appears where evil lies is in our house, in our homes. One interesting point about Hitler, I remember even just before my sort of philosophical studying and thoughts and everything else, is that I remember this interview when I was a kid, even though it was probably like a rerun. It was John Lennon, and he was just literally just talking about peace and love and those type of things. And the interview, I'm probably butchering this again. Please just look this up for yourselves. I'm sure it's on the internet. But they said they asked a question of Hitler and said like Hitler is totally evil, and the evil people it's something on the lines of they should just be disposed of and all those kind of stuff. And then John Lennon came back with a great rebuttal that if Adolf Hitler was taught how to be was treated in a household with love and was cherished, and was he had empathetic family, and he was cared for in the correct manner, and he wasn't whipped and beaten and all of those things, then you wouldn't have the Adolf Hitler. You would have had somebody else that would have replaced him, but that person would have never existed. He became a construct of the environment that he lived in. And that's where and then so you have that beautiful sort of scenario where the power lies within the family home. Now, just another little pointer on that is that because the nation of Germany were quite good, well, not quite, good's not the word, but were quite disciplinary, and they would punish their children and all those things, and there would be this big shouting man who would stand in front of people. People are starting to envisage that person as their leader, because they see that as the father figure, the person with the authoritarian fist punching on the desk and screaming out and spitting and spiting and saying this is what I'll do. That people are foreseeing their own families in the nature of the political leader, and then they are agreeing and saying, yeah, this guy is the answer to our problems. So you can see that there's a fair good correlation between the evil in your homes and the evil that can occur on a humongous political level. So then you've got to highlight where the evil lies, and the greatest amount of power that does occur in the family home. This is where I 100% agree with Stefan Molyneux. He has been the guidance point on all of these subjects, is the way that we treat our children in the house, and not to be impatient with them, and to use calm rather than violence in a situation, and investigate why something bad has happened, rather than using the instant. So if somebody's doing a wrong act, you could do something in the moment and just slap them, and that would start some tears maybe, but would stop the act, which would be upsetting to that person at that moment in time. Which is the essence of instant gratification. Or you can invest time and energy into understanding why that has happened, whether it was an occurrence of what you had done, whether take a holistic approach to what has happened. Why did this occur? Is it something that you've seen in your family lives? Is it something that you've seen at kindergarten? Why has this happened? What can I do about it? What can we improve on things? How can I make you understand that this problem shouldn't be occurring? All of those things, which take a shitload of time and investment, when you haven't really got too much time and investment in the first place, because you are living in a high taxation structure where both of the parents have to go out to work to earn money to have certain amounts of stability to raise children. So there is that structure in place, which this is the point of which where we have the most control where we have the most power, and we have the highest amount to abuse that power in itself. This is so it's all very important and ingrained, and as we grow up, then we have got this. Hopefully we can create these people that have got good courage and good bravery, that can stand up and know when to fight the right battles, and to know when the mob is getting too far, and to know the whole picture and the causations of, and look back at all of the problems, and to focus on the violent acts, and to see where it comes from. And it might not be just a physical act, but it might be just a very silent, subtle act of violence which you don't necessarily see, and it's not right in front of your eyes, but you focus on it and you look at it deeply, and then you find the act. So you have to become this higher strength being, almost, especially if you do come from a background where discipline and and impatience was happening quite a lot with the way that you was raised. You do need to re-augment your brains in the sense of taking time and being patient and using calm and applying it and looking deeply and thoughtfully into issues and seeking out how you can prescribe the best solution to the problem. And sometimes the best solution is just calm and peace and nothing. So just remember those items. It is the hardest thing, especially in the moment, especially when something is happening and you're seeing something that's being perpetrated, and your emotions will just fire in there straight away. And your emotions are always triggered on the background of what's happened in your life, and nostalgia, and just the makeup of who you are is going to kick in straight away, and is going to go, oh my god, that person is evil, and then you fight straightly against them, and you think you are the justice person, you know what to do. But it is the first thing that comes through the head is the calmness, the patience, the walking away from the situation, to think about what has happened, and to speak calmly of what has happened, and to understand and to get more information of that problem. Now, if you come back to speak to that person and they are acting irrationally and they're not making much sense, then you need to take more time and try to explain further, and let the calmness settle before you make the decision. It is the trickiest thing. Apologies, everyone. I have got the right turn of hell again. Oh no, it's going to be good. Oh, come on. All right. Just so you folks know, I do drive on the left side of the road, so I'm not in America. Confusing for some people. Because in America, a right turn would be pretty easy. Evil and your fight against it. Even the word fight sounds like you're just like smashing down these evil political characters and these evil bullies, and it's the fight against evil is a ridiculously hard fight, and you almost need to do the opposite thing at every moment. So rather than be reactionary and angry at evil straight away, you need to act with calmness. When you try to be brave, you try to not think and just act out that problem, but yet you need to think of the entire picture and what has occurred, and to look at every level. So yeah, you're in for a whole world of learning at this point. If this is the first time that you've got through this sort of methodology of thinking, it's going to be a whole shitstorm that you're going to have to go through now, because where it could have been a lot easier in your life, now things are going to get a little bit harder, which doesn't sound that bloody great, but I promise you that if you want to spread goodness in the world and if you want to have longer lasting happiness, this is the correct methodology of thinking, and this will improve things. But it's going to be bloody hard, bloody painful. You're going to have to upset people that you don't want to upset, and you could be put into scenarios which you don't want to be put into, and everything about your status and your wealth could be put under extreme jeopardy. So yeah, you working out the degrees of which you approach these manners and everything else, and understanding what evil is. Just remember, it is a lifelong study. It's a lifelong exercise, and I don't believe that anyone has got pure, like, the best mastery on these things. I think sometimes but the problem is we seem to have sometimes the people with the worst mastery. I can't even say the word. The worst masters of how to act with justice to evil are in the highest levels of political power and governments. So we do have problems in this world, and we do need to act correctly, with morality and with a lot of thought, and with calm, and with peace, and with liberty, so that we can improve the living standards of everybody in this world, and we can create something of a heaven here on Earth.